Hello, 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 everyone. It's Kim from K&RP here in southeastern Manitoba. It is currently 25 Celsius with the humidex, which means it's 77 Fahrenheit with the humidex. It is sunny. The air is not too bad. It is getting worse over the day. All's good. So the other day, I kind of showed you that I keep a old paperback book on my desk or beside me so that I can doodle, I can play, that kind of thing with it. So I just want to show you some other kinds of things that I do to make some Kimbits out of this so that you've got various bits of stuff on hand should you want to create something. Um, I'm going to be using markers. As you know, I have a big batch of uh, kids' craft supplies because I used to teach. So I'm going to be using kids' markers. I've got random colored pencils, Crayola, No Name, Play School, that kind of thing. I'm also going to be using some gel pens. I'm just wanting to show that you can make things out of what you've got and still have a decent selection of ephemera if that's what you want. So I do have quite a few gel pens as well. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to start by just taking my black gel pen. It's usually right handy. And I put it where? There we go. Just a black gel pen. It's an Inkjoy by Papermate. This one, I believe it is waterproof so that it's permanent. You know, um, that kind of thing. So when you've got a book like this and you're just going to doodle in it, like if I go out to the greenhouse and I just want to play, I'll just take this whole book out with me, or I'll rip out some pages. Sometimes I stamp on them with my paints. Sometimes I smear extra paint on them. Just use them as you would any other scrap paper. If you don't want to be using all your copy paper all the time on the gel plate, use book pages. They're fantastic. So you can see that the book is in different lines. You know what a book looks like. So I'm going to work on 3 lines. I'm going to just make sure that they start at this end. They don't have to. But for this one, I'm just going to start at that end. And I'm just going to use these 3 lines of book page, 3 lines of print. Hey, Anne, welcome, welcome. So in this, I'm just going to take a gel pen. Doesn't matter what color. I just grab pink. I have it. Not a habit, just I pulled it randomly. How are you today, Anne? I'm just trying to show how I build up bits of ephemera just using a old paperback. Sometimes you drop them in your bath. Sometimes you get grease spots on them. Thrift stores won't take them if they're missing a front cover or if they're damaged. Oh no, that's really annoying when you get up that early. So I have 3 lines of text just kind of blocked off with my black pen. You don't have to do that. Just figure out 3 lines. And I'm just going to draw pink X's down each line. The nice thing about using book page is you can see where the lines are. You know, sure, you can use white paper, whatever. This adds a different kind of a dimension because it's got the print behind. So I'm just doing X's on the text. Remember, these little bits are going to be used as backgrounds. You're going to be ripping them up. You're not necessarily going to use all 3 lines at once. But you can have these little pink X's available with an interesting background because it's got the text behind. If you're concerned about what the text says, pre-read. I am not concerned because so often my stuff just gets covered up. So there I have 3 lines of pink X's that I can take. I could put that on an ATC. I could use that in a greeting card. I could use it in a collage. I could use that as the border on a tag or something. X's, lines of X's. You can always come back and do a couple of lines with a pencil crayon. I'm not even going to outline them. I'm just going to do X's in purple on 2 lines of text. X's are, one of the easier things to do. That's why I'm using it. You could use circles. You could use just angled lines. You could, you know, do it your way. I'm just quickly showing you various things that you can have a couple of pages of this kicking around so that if you need to add something behind a chicken or something behind a heart, you've got it. Okay, so now I've got 3 lines of pink, 2 lines of purple. Now, what about taking a kid's marker? I'm using a blue kid's marker. Let's just do some lines this way, right through the text. Again, the very cool thing is you can kind of see the text. Again, using that behind something, it's perfect. I love using book pages because you can see the lines. It helps with doing lines. I don't like using rulers, that kind of thing. This is just something simple to do, So let's do another one in this purple. Okay, this purple is kind of running out. That's the one thing about working on newsprint. Your markers don't necessarily last, overly long. So you just block out a few lines in the purple. Again, putting a little heart or something on that. Let's just grab, what have I got? Even this little stencil here. You've got the text behind it and it's peeking out both sides. Perfect little background doodles, So I like to have 3 or 4 pages of this around all the time. Let's use some gel pen again. Let's just do some wavy lines in blue across the text. It doesn't have to be fancy. This is just going to be so that, like I say, it's behind. Looks like a classified document. Oh, it could, yeah, it's got stuff blocked out and, blue wavy line doodles. Let's do some pink wavy line doodles. Just using a gel pen. Fast, simple, doesn't have to be perfect. Having that running down the side or behind on a ATC gives it that little bit more character, right? Does not have to be fancy. Let's do some green. Let's do wavy lines and marker in green. Flower stems, right? You could do a whole page, do every other line, and those would be great flower stems. You could cut them up, use them as bushes, whatever. So, one book page. I've got green, I've got pink, I've got blue, I've got purple, I've got blue, I've got 2 different kinds of X's. Each one of these, you can rip them in half, you can rip them in half long ways. It's just that little bit of something different behind. Like when I did those ATCs and I put the cats on and I had the book page behind. If I put the cat on something like this, that would have been very cute. Let's use an M. See? That it just adds another, I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? Another dimension. Simple, fast. You could do an entire book like this sitting in front of the TV. It's mindless, simple, So I'm just going to put that aside. I keep these big numbers and I put them in my number bin for putting a number on something. You could also do that with the page numbers. These page numbers are pretty small. I'm surprised that none of these bled through, but that's okay. So, lines, doodles, circles, polka dots, whatever, just do rows of them. And like I say, with the lines, the printed lines, it gives you kind of a direction to go in. So, this one, we're going to take, oh, is that glaring? No, it's not. We're going to take the markers and we are going to do the, you know how I do it and I use it like a watercolor. These are pretty dry because they're the print of my bin. There we go. There is one that works good. We're just going to do this. Sherry actually sent me a video where they were doing something very similar to this, but they were using plastic. So then what they did was they took a little spritz bottle of water. That's just water. It's a spritz bottle, Dollarama, I think. Spritz it. And then you take it and you put it upside down on the page. This is an experiment. This one I haven't done like this before, but I thought, let's give it a try. Because you know I usually take the Q-tip and use it like a watercolor. Look at the pretty colors. So now you can go over this and doodle this. It's a little wet. But you could make flowers on these, right? You could do just like if you had doodled a page with watercolors, you can just make some flowers. Again, fast, simple. Background, right? On the blue, let's do some just these kinds. Again, you're going to be ripping these up little bits just to add to something. Of course, you can use stencils if you've got stencils that you want to use. Let's do some, I don't know, let's just do those four-petaled flowers with the stem, a couple of leaves. They don't have to be really elaborate unless you really want to do that. We're doing background. Just things that we can rip up and use in the background. Of course, I would have liked to have had the whole page covered. Didn't quite work the way I had anticipated. Still worked great, though. Kids' markers. They work wonderfully for that. Okay, look, and it bled through, which is fantastic. Oh, that's okay. It's background stuff. It is the glue on the edge of the page that got it. But still, like I say, background stuff. I'm going to be ripping it up and using it anyway. It bled through. That's perfectly fine. Let's do some leaves. You know how, I'm not sure, Fodder School and quite a few other people do a lot of leaves, decorative leaves for fodder. It is a great TV project. And the thing is that you don't have to rip them out. You could just leave them in the book and keep going, right? So then you'd have a whole book of doodle things and you can just grab a page, whatever. So let's just do some leaves. Okay. Now, when you cussy cut them, you're going to leave that little edge of um, paper around, like the print, that kind of thing. You could come in and let's use just some pencil crayon. Let's add the veining on the leaves in the black. Again, I'm just showing you quick things so that sometimes you don't want to haul out the gel plate and all the work of cleaning up or whatever. You just want to do something fun. This is fun. Of course, you can use paint, you can use marker. I'm just going to use some pencil crayon. You could do this in various colors. I'm just doing green because it's simple. Simple leaves, I'll use them in a collage, right? Because I do a lot of floral collage. Okay, so you've got that green. Let's add a little bit of orange. Whoa, it's alive. I've got water on my desk just in case I decide to use paint. A little bit of orange in spaces. Gives it that little bit more textury kind of look when you've got a couple of colors on. You could put polka dots if you wanted to. You know how that goes. Quick leaves. Now, if you had a really, really busy background, something like this background, really, really busy, you take one of these simple leaves. Let's just cut that. Because I drew around it, I'm going to cut it. Just leave a little bit of the book page showing behind. So it's more like a sticker than an actual cutout. So if you have a couple of plain leaves on that busy a background, it smooths it out so it's not so blatant. So if I put the 3 leaves on it, let's just do all 3. Me and my odd numbers. And as I say, so many times the thrift store will not take books if they're damaged or if they've got too many of them. They ended up just throwing them out. So I've got a lot of old books. I use them for this. If they're just going to get thrown out anyway, that's sad. I know that, they go in recycling, but still, one book is going to last you an awfully long time, right? Because if you get 5 or 6 different things out of one page, it's going to last you a long time. Okay, so crazy busy background. Let's put these 3 leaves on. Of course, they would be glued down, kind of arranged a little bit. And then a little focal point. Oh, yeah, definitely. In fact, what I do is like these stamp things that I've made. I will take them and I will do a page and then I will doodle on them. Like, do I have any here? I think I put them all in the bin. Anyway, I doodle on them. And they get pretty elaborate. Thought I had some. Let me just grab one. Okay, they're buried. They're buried. I know that they're here someplace. I thought I just had them recently too. I really need to label these envelopes. But yeah, and I take these with me various places. I love taking them out to the greenhouse. Um, or practice your sketching in them, right? I have no idea where those went. They're not in the bin. That's crazy. Huh. Anyway, sorry, I'm running off on a tangent here. Try practicing your drawing. A little bit of sketching. You're not wasting paper, right? People think, oh, she's reading her book in the waiting room. No, I'm scribbling in it. But yeah, I will take one of these stamp things, put the paint on it, and I will do a page of it, and then I will doodle on it. Can't believe I don't have that envelope handy. It must be on the side desk. Must be on the side desk. So yeah, do a few leaves, especially if you've got crazy, crazy backgrounds. Another nice way to do leaves is if you take a nice big leaf. Okay, so it's not big. And then you doodle in it, right? You do some stripes along one side. And maybe circles on the other side. So if you're in the waiting room and if you've got this doodle in your book and you're in the waiting room and you've got a couple of colored pencils with you, okay, let's color go between the stripes with a pink. This could end up being a focal point. Maybe let's do the stem in a purple pencil crayon. And then let's do the dots in that same purple. So there, now you've got, hey Teresa, welcome, welcome. So now you've got this, could be a background, right? It could be a focal point if you need an interesting focal point. I get odd looks all the time, man. It's the nature of the beast, right? So, I don't necessarily keep my things in a book. I keep them in the envelope on the side. But again, you could do an entire page of leaves and have it ready to add to other things. All right. The only thing about paperbacks is the glued edge. So I find that quite often a page will rip. That's why often I take pages out. Depends on what I'm doing. But I'll show you what I mean about doing the stamping in the book. Let's just take, let's take black. Black will be interesting. I've got a mess. Yes, I do. Paintbrush. Just this is a kid's kind of brush. You could use any stamps that you've got, obviously. I like these stamps that I created for edges and things. Yep, I'm painting my hand as well as the stamp. What you working on in the balcony? And what are you working on today, Anne? I have been reading. I did a lot of hand wash yesterday, so wringing out really ratched my wrist for doing much of anything. Actually, this is a fun thing to do. Again, this is a mindless one as far as I'm concerned. You just take a stamp and you do a couple of book pages with it. Then you can come back. Oh, I'm not wearing my ucky clothes today. Must use a napkin or a paper towel. Oh, I'm sorry you've got a headache. Are you still working on the bits and pieces for Jane Austen? So you've got a stamp. It can be any kind of a stamp. You could then go around each and every piece with a pencil crayon, outline the various areas. And let's do this one over here with the pink. Again, you could rip this up. You could. Oh, that's a big piece. You could cut it so that it's a border. Totally, totally up to you. I'm getting carried away using one color. Let's switch. Let's switch to a darker color. Of course, if you use a gel pen or whatever, it's going to give you a greater depth of color. If my paint was a little wetter, it would have imprinted better. To me, this kind of looks old. These pencil crayons aren't very intense in color. But that's okay. Some orange. Uh, I don't have a yellow. Oh, too bad. Let's do this one. I mean, again, it's something to doodle with, something to color on. You could color between all the lines, whatever. It's just, you can't really see it. But I've outlined all these in different colors, and, you know, again, I can use ink, I can use gel pens, I can use markers, whatever you've got. Put some stamps down on a book page. Okay, so we'll turn the page. And now let's take just, again, this is a kid's stencil, right? I got it at Dollarama. Let's do some different shapes. I'm going to use these. Oh, it's got a red cap and a green marker. Well, that's interesting. So I'm just going to outline each of these in various colors. I know this is boring watching me go through stencils. Just showing you, just throwing ideas at you. You know I like to throw ideas. for reasonable cost, right? Because if you don't have old paperbacks, or you are a readaholic and you collect your paperbacks, go to Dollarama, go to thrift store. You will find something that you won't mind scribbling on. Right? So I'm just doing all these shapes. Yeah, there's going to be book page between. No biggie. No biggie at all. Of course, you could do this with paint. You could do the gel pens. Crayons are a little heavy to go through stencils, I find, so I don't really like to use crayons with stencils unless I'm just doing the block inside. And you know darn well that you are not going to get to the edge if you're using a crayon. And so I've got all those different shapes. Pull this down and do another row because there's still room on the print. Of course, you could do all circles. If you've got a stencil that's all circles or stars or squares, use what you have. You don't have to go out to Dollarama and look for this stencil. Please don't, because I've had it for a while, and who knows if they still have them. I didn't, unfortunately. Yeah, ideas are nicer than mud to throw. Although I have had some great mud ball fights. When we first moved here, the yard wasn't landscaped. My kids used to get stuck in the gumbo so that their boots would get stuck and they would and the boots would stay and their feet were bare. The socks would stay and they would go tromping through. Oh, yeah. So we had mud ball fights. There was a studio tour both in the city of Winnipeg and the one out here. But unfortunately, due to air quality, I didn't go. Okay, so we've got all these plain shapes, just plain shapes. So let's use some gel pens. Let's have some brighter color. We got triangles. Let's just use one angle and do lines. This one, I'm just doing monochromatic here. So I did lines and then I did a smaller triangle and a smaller triangle. Now, I can cut that out and I could put it anywhere, right? It's just like this book that I did. I was just looking for little things to fill in spaces, right? Those are perfect for filling in spaces. Yeah, I've gotten an inconsiderate neighbor like that too. He burns his dog dung. He hasn't done it for a while. Ron actually spoke to him. So just do lines, circles, I'm just doing pink circles in this one. We can fill them in with pencil crayon after. Can leave them alone. Let's just color this arrowhead in with green. I can come and put some stripes on it with a gel pen later if I want. Again, a book page that you can just play with, do things with. Oh, nasty Anne. Absolutely nasty. He's done it for years. You could Zentangle in all these little shapes if you did Zentangles. That would be gorgeous. I don't really Zentangle. I just make marks. Just make marks. This one I'm just going to follow the lines. and make it smaller and smaller and smaller. Again, pencil crayons are not overly pigmented. Well, these ones aren't. It has to be a health violation. I'm sure it is, but we live rurally, right? Everybody burns everything. My new next door neighbors were going to burn their diapers. I said, "Oh, no, you're not." Anyway, another way to use up a book page. So we've got stamping on it, stamping and doodling. You just treat it like any other paper, right? Any other paper, it just happens to have book page underneath. What about a really nice big leaf? Let's take this green and do a nice big leaf. Um, just a regular leaf shape? Just a no. What about? I can't envision any other leaf shapes right now. Okay, we'll just do. Oh, this marker is finally having the way of all going the way of all things. Okay, I'm going to go over it again in a darker marker. Ooh, a darker marker. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. Nice big leaf. Now, we could spritz it with some water because I want it to bleed just a little bit. Oh, I am such a mucky mess, guys. So I'm hoping that it's going to bleed a little bit. It's not really bleeding much. It has to be much wetter than that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to come along with a paintbrush and some water. And you know what? It's okay if all these pages go bubbly. It's a book. Where would this book be if we weren't using it? So I'm just going to go along the marker. As I say, I want it to run, bleed, whatever you want word you use. I have an idea. Of course, if you're taking this in the car, you're not going to take, you might take the spritz bottle of water. You're not going to take a glass of water to doodle with. But I'm just trying to show that if you don't have stacks of copy paper, that like, because I have a printer, I have copier paper. Not everybody has a printer. Not everybody's going to have a bundle of copy paper. I have various construction paper. Not everybody has construction paper. Use a book. Use an old book. See, it's starting to run a little bit. It's getting the fuzzy edges. I like that. I really like that. So it's a little bit wet, but that's okay. We'll continue going on with this. So again, what I'm going to do is where all there's text, I'm going to I'm going to no, I'm going to draw lines on the text. And yeah, if they do, it runs into that wet stuff and decides to run that little bit too, that's perfectly fine. And of course, this is quite a large piece. If you were doing a large collage, it would be nice in a large collage. It would be a nice background in a book with other things on top of it. Um, you know, so I've now gone through the text lines with a lighter green. It does have interest. It does have interest. So I've got the lines on. Now, how about if between, where they've got different paragraphs, there's big white, it's not white, grayish, plain paper, plain paper. Now I'm going to take that same light marker and I'm going to do diagonal lines just where it's white. And I guess I should have gone different angle on each side, but I did not. That is fine. So now I've got some diagonal marks and some horizontal, horizontal marks. Again, gives it a whole different look. You can leave it as it is. You can embellish it some more. What about taking a green gel pen and on the diagonal lines, go on either side of the diagonal marks with a green gel pen or a pencil crayon? It's down here. So, again, I know you guys doodle. You have your own ways to doodle. It doesn't like getting wet, this gel pen. That's fine. So I'm just going on either side of the diagonal marks I made. It's all about the mark making, gives it that interest. You don't need to use green. You could use pink. You could use purple. You could use orange. You could use black. All right. Oh, I missed one. Totally missed this line of marks. So now, maybe I want to make sure you can't really read the writing that much. I'm going to go on those solid green lines I did. I'm going to use the same gel pen and I'm going to do a wavy line. Oh, focus. Come on, camera. You love me. Let's focus. It doesn't want to play nice. Look away, ladies. Look away. It's not focusing. Mucky hand. Mucky hand. Oh, very mucky hand. There we go. Thank you. So I'm going to do a wobble line down where I did the straight lines on the text. Again, just add some interest. Maybe I should use a pen that actually writes on the damp paper. And you don't have to do every line. You don't have to use green. I could have changed pens and used orange or something. It's just something fun. Okay, so now I have this piece of ephemera. And it doesn't have to be a leaf. You might just like this section here, so you rip it out. You might just want to make that leafy section kind of tucking out from something. So be it. We're going to let that dry. And of course, it led you to this page. That's okay. It's okay. We can still doodle on this page by all means. So, what about doing a nice flower? You know how you see all those incredible doodle flowers? They put the watercolor down and then they doodle on top of it. Well, I'm going to do a nice doodle flower. I'm going to try to do a nice doodle flower on the text. I'm going to save the 59 on the text, and then we can come back and color it in. So the nice thing about, again, the lines in a book, let's put a circle right here. It's over 2 lines. So it kind of gives you an idea of how big you want the petals, right? It helps you decide on the size of your petals. So let's do these little stamen-y kind of things. Now, we could use that flower just the way it is. Fussy cut it out, throw it on a tag, throw it on a crazy background, and it's calming because it's just black and book page, right? Or you can color it. Something like this, I would go dark in the center, like a darker pink on the center. You also have to remember that if your pen does smear on book page, if you're coloring on it, the ink may smear. I'm not overly concerned. So I start with a dark color there, and I'm going to do a dark color around the edges, the same dark color around the edge of the petals. If it wants to color, sometimes pencil crayons get it in their mind that I don't have to color that. I could leave it just the way it is, and that would be just a cute little flower. There you go. Another piece of ephemera. You could do the whole page in flowers and color them in different colors. Let's do that. I'm just doing 4 petal flowers. And I'm not overly concerned with the shape of them. Once you add a little bit of color or something to them, they're going to be just fine. Oh, got a little carried away there. Not sure what that is. It's okay. It's as if you're having a bad hand day. They're not all the same, but they are. 4 petals, big centers. Don't forget to add I guess those are stamen. I'm not sure exactly what those are. Maybe they're creases in the petals. Everybody uses them. Okay, so now we've got the one in the dark pink. Let's do a red one. And it's okay that green's through there. It's just going to add that little bit more interest. I can come in and add some of that to the other petals if I so desire. Again, I am just doing the very center, dark, and just around the edge of the flower. I'm leaving the center part of the petals natural. What other color have I got here? I've got a purple. I'll do some purple. And of course, you can color the center in black, yellow. These are your flowers. You do them your way. This is the way I do them. I'm just showing you what I do. This is not a hard and fast rule. This really has no rules. The purple one. And let's do a blue one. Why not? Why not? Let's, we're playing. We're just playing, adding to the ephemera or, bit spin. I will cut them out and add them to my bit spin. I'll probably take a picture of them all cut out as well. They're fun. Simple. I like the simple stuff, guys. Yeah, I know some of my stuff I get really elaborate with. Oh, this one doesn't color nice. I want something with color. Let's try this one. That's a bit better. Doesn't have to be blatant color, Kim. It can be hints of color. Right? Right. And of course, yeah, I could use markers on them. I could use pastels if I had them. One more. Let's do it in another blue. Do I have another blue? I think that's the blue I used. Let's do this dark blue. Or are you black? Oh, it's pine green. Let's see. I have seen green flowers. Oh, I didn't put the lines in that. Look at me. And again, this is a little piece of hand created bits in your journals. It adds some whimsy. There we go. 6 little flowers to add to the collection. You can make them smaller by all means. All right. This one's still wet. Let's see. Where did the green gel pen go? I just want to make sure these lines are definitely scribbly on. They don't have to be. Now, if you have the patience, all these little marks that you drew and with the marker, like the stem and the outline of the leaf and each of these little diagonal marks, if you came back and doodled on them, do you know how cute that would be? So say we want to go, that blue is still quite wet. Let's do these diagonal marks. Let's do them in a nice bright, there's my gray shadow pencil. Obviously, this was out in the shop with me, or the greenhouse. This is a different green. It's like a blue green. So on the diagonal marks, let's do this row with circles down them. And this row, let's do them in a blue, and let's do X's. Again, you could Zentangle this if you wanted to. I'm just using simple marks just to show you that the more that you add to what you've done, the greater interest it has. Okay, let's use this dark green again, and On this row, how about if we do diagonal lines going up the other way on those marks? Quiet. I'm being quiet. I'm concentrating. And what about if I take, well, that's a black marker. You go in there. You also are a black, you can go there. I've been using blues and greens, so let's continue on with the blues and greens. Let's do some S marks down these. And like with anything else, the last layer you add is the one that's going to be dominant, right? It's going to be more of the focal point. So the doodling is going to be more of the focal point than anything else. If that makes sense to you. It's another blue. I've got this one. How about if we just do like polka dots? All right. So now to do the same thing with those lines that we scribbled on, definitely have to do something on the outside and the vein. So what about if I used black? Let's use my black gel pen. And I think I'm going to do S marks. I love the S marks. It's one of my favorite things to do. Definitely down the vein. And down the edge. Just kind of finishes it off that little bit. I like the fact that the color smeared the way it did. Got all the chicken smoked this morning. It's nice to have that in the freezer again. Of course, you could have doodled it all with the black. That would have been pretty stunning itself. I apologize for my mucky fingers. That's what happens when I paint my stamps. Okay, so now let's cut this beast out. Move it without tearing. So I'm going to go pretty close. I want the smear in. Oop, a little close there. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. So because I'd wrung out all those clothes yesterday, my hand and wrist was giving me a lot of issues last night, so I read an entire book, which is kind of funny because I don't normally read books due to the floaties in my eyes. But it was like, I want to read a book. So I did, and I enjoyed it. There. That's a fun leaf. It's a book page, but it has lots of interest. And again, like I say, if this is a background, you could use that as a background on a page. And then you come along. If the page is really, really wild, what have I got that's really wild? This. It calms it down, right? It's much calmer. Okay, so I'm starting to get bits. Lots of bits. I've got these flowers. I'll cut those out, like I say, and do those. I will take this and doodle that more, probably with ink. I will finish doodling that. Okay, now let's see this book page. How about if we do some of those little line things again? Because that very first page of these line things, they really do come in handy. They really, really, that's one of the staple things I really like to have on hand. So I'm going to take just this marker and I'm going to just continue doodling on the page. I'll do 2 rows of the S marks in purple. And if you think that it's a little pale, right? If you really don't want them to see the text, then go over it in a gel pen of the same color, alternate color, black, you know. Let's do black because it's right here. So yeah, you can still read it. But the thing is now you've got an interesting bit to put behind something else. It's purple and black. Okay, so what if we did dots or just circles on this row? This is a very nice gel pen. What is it? It is a Bic gel pen, Gelosity. Can't remember if these bleed or not. I can't remember. And yeah, you could do this on plain white paper too. But there's something about having it on top of the text that adds that additional bit of interest. Okay, let's use some pencil crayon. Let's color the text with pencil crayon. I'm going to do 2 rows. So it's almost like just having a couple of stripes of color with text, you know. It'd be nice if this was something everybody would want to read, not necessarily is. But again, there's going to be something in front of it, on top of it. Just color in the lines. Do a couple of lines of the red. Do you remember in school when you would color in all the O's, A's, D's, G's? That also looks really nice if you did an entire page with that. I have done that in the past. Again, it looks like it's blanked out. All's good. You can come back and put dots of paint on, you know. It's totally up to you. Totally up to you. Let's see. Let's see if we could make this kind of look like um, tree trunk, tree bark. I like tree bark. I like making fence posts and logs. Okay, so we've got some brown down. Now let's come back with the black. Do the same kind of thing, not necessarily over the brown, but close to. Actually, this makes quite interesting tree bark. I think I'll do a couple of pages of that. And then I've got lots to rip out for my fences. And of course, you can come in with a brown pencil crayon and add just a little bit of darker brown to it, lighter brown. Got dark brown somewhere. You know, if you don't want any of that or less of that white showing, a little bit of pencil crayon on there, definitely goes good. I like it. I like it. I think I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to do a couple of pages of that for myself, so I've got it handy. That's the other thing. If you find something that you really like, do more than just a couple of lines. Do a couple of pages. So this red that's got the just the solid line here, let's take a white gel pen. Let's put dots on that. And I know that you could do this on any other kind of paper. Like I say, not everybody has other kinds of paper. But it's easy enough for someone to get an old paperback or a hardcover at a thrift store and doodle away on it. And some of those pages have such a nice tint to them because they're aged, so they start to yellow. I suggest, though, that you don't get something that's too fragile if you want to do heavier markings. So now I've done that with white dots. Again, rip off a piece, put it behind a letter. Probably a plain letter, but it just adds something. You could put a word over it, and it could be like a border for a word. It's nice to have this stuff made, especially if you're doing like I did the ATCs last stream. I have all the bits and I just add randomly to what I've got, makes it interesting, but I have these bits to do that with. So I think that that's an important one. Very important. So I hope this has inspired you guys to grab a book and play. Sure, use your sketchbooks, use whatever. But if you've got text behind whatever you're working on, magazine pages work great like this as well. Glossy magazine pages. Pencil crayons don't necessarily color nice on the glossy pages. But if you do color, and then you take one of those stumped rolled pieces of paper, smudgers, what are they called? I know what they're called. I can never remember the name. But you brush over them, then it gives a nice pastel-y thing behind the text. And many magazines, the text is good to use for various things. Safe, you know. So anyway, that's about all I've got for you guys today. My hand is not a happy hand, so I'm going to call it a day. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I have inspired you. Yeah, you'll have lots of book pages and bits left over. Seriously, even if you put polka dots down a line, it's something. And because it's print and it's in a line, it's easier to have, you know. Anyway, have a lovely day, guys. I will see you on Friday. I haven't talked to Jean about if we're going back to working on our journals or if she's even coming on with me this Friday, but I'll come up with something. Take care, guys. Have a lovely day. Bye now.